Hello. Today I'm here with Nayna McIntosh. Hello, Nayna.
Hello.
And we're going to discuss, and she's going to show us her brand, Hope, which both Grace, Ellie and I are very excited that we've discovered because we think it is the answer to many women of our age problems with fashion. Nayna, you have spent over 30 years in the fashion industry, so I have to say that you have so much experience. You started at Marks and Spencer's.
I did.
You went on and did, was it Next?
It was, yeah. It was
And
Next.
then
Then George Asda, back to M&S.
Exactly.
Yeah. Full
And then at the ripe old age of
51.
then you decided to start up your own company.
I did, yeah.
Why suddenly, having been in the corporate fashion industry, did you suddenly decide this was...
I think for me certainly there was something about getting to the age of 51, or certainly getting to 50, and my interpretation of that was, you know, you're more than halfway through at that stage, and therefore I felt I wanted to really think about how I was going to live the next stage of my life, I guess, and rightly or wrongly, I decided to acknowledge this little voice that had been talking for a long time, which just kept saying, you should run your own business, you should think about doing a women's wear brand, you should really have the courage to do this.
And that at the age of 50 you can reinvent yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's so important for women, not to feel it's sort of a downhill,
Yeah.
You say, but it isn't, is it?
It is.
You can.
The best is yet to come.
And you started up this brand, Hope.
I did.
Why is it called Hope?
It's really simple. Having decided that I wanted to do something in women's wear, that there was a commercial opportunity, knew what the philosophy, the design philosophy of the brand was going to be. The question then was, what was I going to call it? And this was all going on for me at a time when I'd taken a year out of my career, which I'd never done before, 30 plus years, and had gone at it 24/7. But I did take a year out, and I call that my reading, researching and reflecting phase, because I wanted to work out what next. And for me personally, what I was trying to answer was, what is it that makes me, I guess, what makes me think, what makes me tick, what motivates me? And it all came back for me to my family and kind of where I came from. And my maternal grandparents, my grandfather came to this country in the 50s. He left his home and his wife and their children to find a better life. And like lots of West Indian men at that time, and Papa was amazing because it took him the best part of 8 years to work hard enough, to save enough, to send over, to gradually bring his wife and their children to this country.
Right.
And when you've got your own children and you imagine leaving them for 5 minutes, let alone 8 years, I suppose I really started to understand what an undertaking that was for him. And knowing my Papa as I know him, he would have said that it was hope and optimism that kept him going.
Yeah, I think everyone needs hope.
Definitely. And
But I think your story is so topical now. You must be watching these refugees trying to find a new home, leaving their families in many cases.
And your heart just weeps.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the second point, which is when, if you like, the penny dropped, is that my mum is called Hope.
Oh, really?
So it's her second name. It's Michael Hope McIntosh, and my daughter is called Florence Hope McIntosh.
Oh, I love it.
And therefore it became blindingly obvious what I should call it.
Well, I think your range does give lots of hope for all of us older women who are struggling with our weight or size or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, Nayna, you've decided that you're designing for the woman over 40.
Most definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely, which is fantastic. It's a big market,
It
as
certainly
we both
is, yeah.
know, we've discussed earlier. And what I want you now to explain to our viewers is the Hope code and the sizing system, which I absolutely adore. If you could just sort of give us a brief, description of that.
I think I'd love to, and where my starting point would be that as a team that are involved in putting Hope together, there are 6 of us.
Yes.
5 of us are women. We've got over 200 years' experience in this sector, in this industry together, and our average age is 54. So we often
know that
we know this woman because we are this woman.
Yeah.
And I suppose when we were thinking about how we wanted to do this, you obviously want to learn from your mistakes. You want to think about doing things differently, because I think the last thing the world needs is another women's wear brand.
Absolutely.
We wanted to have a point of difference, I guess. And there were 2 specifics that there are a number of specifics actually. One was about how we were going to size things, and I passionately believe that the size in a back neck of a garment becomes so emotional for so many of us. And even if you really want that top, but if it means I've got to wear a garment with that number in it and it's not the number I want to wear,
the word.
I ain't wearing it.
No, exactly. The extra large.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the other thing we were clear about is that we wanted this to appeal to as many different size women as possible. Lots of fashion brands don't go up to a 14 these days. Sorry, don't go up to a 16 these days.
Right.
And we were determined that we wanted to cater for at least a 20.
Right.
And therefore, when you're doing a range from 8 to 20, you start to make life really complicated if you do single sizes. And I suppose because we also knew that the handwriting of the collection would be quite relaxed, it would be, in some cases, quite drapey. It wasn't going to be about critical fit tailored garments where you had to be spot on with your sizes. So we decided that we wanted to approach it differently, and 90% of our collection comes in just 3 sizes. So we have what we call a free size, 8 to 20. We have a dual slim, which is 8 to 14. And we have a dual curvy, which is 16 to 20.
Fantastic. Oh, a dog. That's your dog in the background.
That's all right. That's
okay.
That's our family dog. And to that end, when it comes to trousers, we do 4 sizes because fit can be slightly more critical with trousers. Yes. So in which case we do a super slim, a size 8, a slim, 10 to 12, a curvy, 14 to 16, and a super curvy, 18 to 20. And it's not rocket science for a brand to do blended sizes like that, but ordinarily they would be called small, medium, large, and extra large. And I come from the point of view that I've yet to meet a woman who wants to be called an extra large.
Exactly.
What we find is that women say, oh, super curvy, oh, I quite like the sound of that. Or the lovely story genuinely that I had recently was a customer who emailed to say, I love your clothes. I'm genuinely a size 22 to 24. Would you introduce a triple curvy? So she was much happier being called triple curvy than extra, extra large.
Exactly.
And I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's the emotion of it that is part of the thinking, or the first step to feeling good about yourself.
You really thought this through. I like it a lot. I do.
So the sizing was important. And then the next thing was the importance of proportion. And I am what I often describe myself as a grubby store marketing kind of girl. I'm a retailer through and through. I'm not a designer. But when we were chatting the philosophy through, Gary, who is our designer, talked about something called the divine proportion, which I had never heard of. But it's all based on the principle of thirds, and anything that is considered aesthetically perfect in the world, in science, nature and art, can be proven to go back to this way of thinking, which dates back to something like 44 BC. Yeah. So whether it's the Eiffel Tower, whether it's Leonardo da Vinci's painting of Mona Lisa, the petals on the roof, it all comes back to this formula. And of course, when you try to apply that to every day, what you find is that anybody who's probably done an art, studied art or architecture, gets this.
Yes.
Quite often your designers in fashion and styling get it, but not lots of women know that. And lots of women, I think, can make the mistake of dressing in what we would call a 50-50 proportion, as opposed to a 2/3 and 1/3 or a 1/3 and 2/3. And we've called that the Hope Code. So everything in our collection is designed to those proportions.
Right.
And what we find is that when women put on our garments and to the right proportion, it helps to make them feel taller, leaner and more elongated.
And they just know they've nailed it.
Some people actually said, when Gary first talked to me about it, what I actually said was, that explains why some days I look in the mirror and think, I've nailed it today.
Yeah.
And then other days, when I don't do it properly, I'd look and think, what's gone wrong? And it is all about proportion. We call it the Hope Code.
So what I'm going to do now is I brought along Back Packing Granny.
Oh,
Charlie,
yeah.
Charlie, and she's definitely a woman over 50. You might get her to tell you how old she really is, because it's wonderful. And I'm going to ask you to put her in a couple of outfits and explain what you're doing, so we can see this Hope Code in action.
Come together. Brilliant, love to. Okay, so Charlie, when you go to any large department store, what size would you normally have in mind for you?
A 14.
A 14, okay. Because what we put you in today is our rib shrug poncho, which is a free size, so that's 8 to 20, which would fit all of us brilliantly. We've put you in a dual slim foundation top, actually, which is an 8 to 14.
Right.
But we've put it in a lot. It comes in 2 lengths. It comes in a regular and a long length. And I've put you in a long length because I think it just gives you that comfort just past your hips. So hopefully that's how it feels. And we put you in a curvy trouser, which is a 14 to 16. And that fits very neatly around your bum. So hopefully you're comfortable.
Very comfy.
Yeah.
Very comfy.
Yeah. And what is really important for us, this outfit, is because this works perfectly to the Hope Code. And I said, I'll talk about quite often, it's a 1/3, 2/3 proportion, or a 2/3 and 1/3 proportion. And what Charlie's demonstrating beautifully here is that it's about 1/3 and it's about 2/3. And what I'm going to do is get you to put another top on, which will have the reverse effect, and will actually do 2/3 and 1/3. But for now, that is a perfect example of the Hope Code, 1/3, 2/3.
For me, this would be absolutely fantastic because I'd use it for travelling.
Oh, great.
Because it's layers.
Yes, perfect. And I have to say, this fabric is brilliant for that. It's crease resistant, it's easy care, it's got a built-in body moisture system, so it's one of those really clever fabrics that when it's hot it keeps you cool, and when it's cold you layer it up and it keeps you warm. So it just works really, really, really well for travelling.
Makes me feel slimmer.
Good. And that's the 28% lycra, which has that nice effect of just smoothing and giving you a great silhouette as opposed to sucking you in. What I'd like to do now, Charlie, if you don't mind, we can take your rib shrug off.
Yep.
Thank you. And I'll just get that here. And now we're going to do the opposite on your proportion and make you do 2/3 and 1/3. And you're wearing a dual slim in this as well, 8 to 14.
Want to see the back?
Yeah, love to. How does that feel?
Very comfy. Again, I mean, ideal for me to do layers. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
I would never have chosen this. I mean, it's you choosing it. And I really like it. Brilliant.
Well, I think you look fab. I really do.
What's your most popular?
A version of that, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So this is a bonded fabric over the black foundation. Our most popular selling piece is this, which is a version of what you're wearing, but knitted. And this has got, I think it's 10% cashmere. It's either 10 or 8%. And what we've done, lots of women have styled it with the grey foundation or with the black. So if you just whip that on, yeah, sure. There you go. And this comes with a really lovely pin as well that you can just, if you want to, just tuck it there.
Again, it's all very comfy.
It is. It is. And the version that we did, so we retail that at £120 because it has got a blend of cashmere. And then we do this version, which is actually very beautiful, but has got more acrylic in it than that. And we retail this at 65. So there's a real option there if you want to trade up, or if you want to really watch the pennies. It's a better
Now,
option.
if you were, would that be dry clean?
No, gosh, no.
No?
No. This would be, they're either a 30-degree machine wash or a cool hand wash. I can't remember.
And the
specific.
same
Yes.
with this?
Oh, this is unbelievable. The foundation pieces all go into the machine at 30 degrees. They come out and they're virtually dry anyway. You just put them on a hanger or dry them flat, whatever you've got. And I find that within a couple of hours they're dry and then you're good to go again.
Oh, that's great. I mean, because often I'm in a hotel.
Absolutely.
I wash out at night.
Perfect.
And I hope it's dry in the morning.
And what's really lovely about the foundation with that fabric is that we do it in a top, in a trouser, in a legging, in a body, in a dress. So you've got all bases covered.
Well, that was fun, getting Backpacking Granny all dressed up, wasn't it? I enjoyed that. Just a few quick questions for you, Nayna. Hope most of the collection is made in the UK, am I right?
As we stand at the moment, 40% of the collection is made in the UK. I said earlier that I knew there was certain things that were going to be really important to us in terms of making us different from lots of brands out there. And one of them was sourcing. And I felt passionately that I wanted to be able to say that a big portion of our range was made here in the UK. And lots of people thought I was crazy. But you know what is amazing is that there is still an industry out there. You know, you've got the wonderful cashmere industry going on in Hawick in Scotland, which is where where our cashmere comes from, the majority of our cashmere. But in some instances, we've actually got fabric that's been knitted in the West Midlands, and the fabric then being taken down to London, and that's where the dresses are being made.
Yes.
And I love the fact that we have got that kind of transparency.
And it's easier to control, presumably.
Completely. I mean, we've got a wonderful little factory. When I say little, you know, Nicola, not dissimilar to us, is a start-up, and you know she's looking to learn. Our garment technologist Jeannie has got 40 years' experience. She's amazing. So in some ways that helps Nicola, and and Jeannie loves to do it. So when it came to signing off the navy cocoon dress, it was Jeannie who went in and just did the final touches with Nicola to make sure we got the absolute best quality that we could get. So yeah.
I think post-Brexit, it's something that a lot of people are asking. I was talking to somebody yesterday that I was coming to interview you today, and I said that a lot of the clothes were made in this country, and she said, I love that. I didn't realise it was quite as important, you know, and people really want now to support Britain and keep us on our feet.
And I think also, my personal view is that this particular age group, this demographic, feels as passionately now, if not more so, than she ever did. And there was a Mintel report that came out recently, which basically confirmed that this 55-plus customer, to be clear, it's absolutely about the quality of what she's buying than fast fashion. You know, if she did that ever, she's doing it less and less now. More concerned about provenance.
I think I told you earlier that if I never went into another shop, it wouldn't be a moment too soon, honestly. So, you know, to find somebody like you doing this so well online and doing it differently and explaining to women, because I do think that we get stuck in a rut.
I
think we have our children and we get stuck in a set of fashion before they were born, when we had time to think about fashion, and then we're running out of the house on the school run, just pulling things on and thinking, I'll change when I get back, and you never do. And, you know, I go on a dog walk and then think, I'll change when I never do, and I find, you know. So I think all of those things are important, and I think the fact that you are online is wonderful. You also do, because I know a lot of people are nervous buying online for the first time, particularly.
I understand that, yeah.
And you've got these different names for sizes and things. You also do these Hope
at home events.
Hope at home events, exactly. where you have stylists.
Yes. Yeah.
Just quickly, a stylist. If somebody's seeing this article, reading this article, watching this video, whatever, they could apply
Absolutely
to be a stylist.
Yeah.
And they have a range, and people come into their home and they show them.
And
how
the
it
reason
works.
this all came about is that, again, back to my research phase, is that if you look at this customer and where she likes to shop, or where she shops, shall I say, the third biggest area that, in terms of other retailers that she goes to, is independent stores.
Right.
And that was a real surprise to me, I have to say, even with all of my years of experience. And of course, when you think about it, it's quite logical actually, because it gives her an opportunity to maybe pick something out that she's not going to see 10 other women wearing that month. And secondly, it comes back to this service. And I genuinely believe that for lots of women of this genre, it is about having that confidence, that styling advice to say, no, you can wear that, honestly, or try that with this. And if it's a disaster, so what? You know, you haven't bought it.
We showed that with Backpacking Granny, didn't we?
Yeah.
She was just so amazed
and
at what you chose for her. She wouldn't have necessarily chosen.
And what you find often is that there is that, it's like getting someone out of their comfort zone, but also then to be able to say to her friends, well, what do you think? And that's a much greater endorsement than somebody, you know, who is really just interested in the sale.
You feel more relaxed being in someone's home.
Definitely.
Rather than in a sort of a shop environment where you've got a sales assistant sort of pushing, is that okay?
Exactly.
No,
so we were clear that that's what we wanted to try and achieve. And to that end, our route to doing this is what we call social selling. It's about recruiting a network of stylists around the UK who apply, and then once they've got through that kind of criteria, they will then buy into the brand. They will buy a small collection from us, and that's what they then use to take into their community, into their network.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And then, what do you have hope in the future? Plans? What are they?
I'm pretty sure that it's unlikely that I think we'll become a bricks and mortar retailer. I think that makes it so hard for any startup business to do that, albeit never say never. But we absolutely want to extend our reach and get this brand name out there. Because we know that when we meet women, when they come into contact with our product, we have a really high repeat customer business.
Right.
We have a very low repeat business. We have a very low returns. Very high repeats, very low returns. And what that tells us is that when she touches the product and wears it, she's happy with the styling, the sizing, and the quality. And
she's happy with the washing.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah.
Cool wash. Just hang it to dry 2 hours later.
All the foundation pieces are amazing for that. And it's things like that we do think about. So when we were going to do our narrow stretch trouser, we were going to do it with a leather stripe down the side, which is gorgeous.
Yes,
but that's a £35 dry cleaning bill every time you want to clean it. Yes. So we've used an eco leather stripe, which looks exactly the same, but means you can wash it. So they're the sorts of things that we really do try and consider when we're designing. But to answer your question more fully, what we've been amazed at is the international interest on our website. So 10% of our traffic on the website is coming from the US. We've already had an approach from a departmental store group as to whether we would consider doing business. It's very early days, but I would hope to be a global brand.
Well, I have to say, I'm glad you ended with that, because Country Wives has an enormous amount of foreign readers, and our Americans. What I love about the American market is they always put comments. They're always encouraging things, just saying like, "Oh, we love it," and carry on, and when's your next one coming? And so I think that they're obviously going to see this, and at least they won't say, "Oh, well, I'm never going to be able to buy it." They know that it will hopefully across.
We are desperately trying to work out that we can ship to the US from January next year.
Oh, fantastic! Well, Nayna, thank you so much for inviting me into your home, for doing this interview, for just explaining it all.
It's been a pleasure.
I think the pleasure's all ours, Backpacking Granny, mine, because honestly, you've educated us you've given us hope in more ways than
Thank
one.
you.
That, you know, those muffin tops and larger...
We can tuck those away.
Yes, can be tucked away,
Yeah.
and we can still look fabulous and youthful. That's the other thing.
And
Thank you.
comfortable.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.